Okay, for this one, we're going to do editing number 11. And this is a fun one inspired by a student in my class. And the idea is that we are going to learn how to do a double exposure, but only inside of in the area of the head. So I have two examples right here. Here is one and here is another. So as you can see, there is a landscape in here and it's a profile photograph. All right, so in my Google Classroom, I've explained exactly how to do this. Basically, we're going to be working in 3 layers, a plain white layer, a profile portrait layer, and a background image layer. And we're going to be using the magic tool to get rid of the background here. And then we're going to change the opacity a bit throughout it. And what we're going to do is we are going to delete the landscape image so that it only exists inside of the head, and then we can change it and manipulate it as we want. So the first thing I need you to do is to first acquire your 3 pictures. So for me, I borrowed large images online. So if you are going to borrow images, remember this is just for practice. So you're welcome to borrow images just for practice. But if you want to do this on your own and like photograph your mother or photograph a friend or photograph yourself in one way, you can do that as well. Just make sure you choose an image with a background that can easily be erased. So what you're going to do is come over to your tab and you're going to type in profile portrait photo. Don't put in just profile photo because you're going to get like people with their Instagram pictures or whatever. So you want it to be a profile and you want it to be under images here. And then you're going to go to tools to create the large size. Remember, you want large size. So now look for something that has a good background that you can easily get rid of. I prefer one in color because it's easier to get rid of the background. If you imagine getting rid of this background, it's going to fall into the magic wand will fall into the hair. It's very hard to see the difference. So choose something that has a nice contrast image right here. It's like this one might work really nicely. Let's see how big this picture is. And what you do is I just usually scroll over. Look, it says 2100 by 2900. That's really good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and I'm going to save this image. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to rename it so I can find it easy. Tutorial 11. Now I need to find a background image I want to do. So typically you would want to choose an image that relates to the person that you are photographing. I'm just going to go to my own personal website and I'm going to choose a landscape picture from my trip across country. So I'm going to go to my motherland show and I'm going to look for, let's try some pine. Yeah, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to save my pine tree image. Mine's already named nicely, so I'm going to save it to my desktop. Okay, so now we're ready to get started. I've got my images. So I'm going to go to Pixlr. Remember, you do not need to sign in. You just need to go to Pixlr E. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my portrait, which is the most important picture. So I'm going to go to my desktop and look for where I saved my portrait. And of course, I can't find it right off the bat. It's going to downloads. Not in downloads. saved it under T for tutorial. Edit 11. I'm fine with the full HD. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my other images to work with. So I'm going to add layer, add images layer, and it's going to be my pine tree image. There it is. And then my third layer is just going to be a plain white layer. So let's go ahead and do layer. And I'm going to do a new layer. And notice that the new layer comes up as empty. So if I want to add something to it, all I have to do is I'm going to change this to switch colors. I'm going to do a white paint bucket right inside of it. There it is. So you can see my layer 3 over here. And I got my background image in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename these to make it easy for you. So this is going to be my background. I'm going to call this background because that is the background picture I'm using. And then my second one, and I'm going to keep the background one on top, is going to be, I'm going to call this just the white layer. I'm going to go at the very bottom. Bottom. There we go. And then I'm going to do this one. I'm just going to call portrait. So all I do is click here and unlock it. And I'm going to call this the portrait. Right now, you should have 3 layers. 1, 2, 3, background on top, portrait, and then white. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to work in the portrait one. So I'm going to hide this background so I can see it. And I just want to get rid of this background layer first off. So all I'm going to do is come to my magic wand tool, which I love. Change your tolerance as needed and just click on the background. You see my tolerance is way too high because it's choosing some of her face. So I'm going to change the tolerance lower to 14. You can see. And now that looks really good. I think I got all the white and I just click delete. Now it looks like nothing is going away, but that's because I have the background here. If I were to hide that, you can see that I've gotten rid of mostly everything. It looks like here. Select, deselect. Looks like I need to get rid of some over here. So if you need to, use your eraser tool. Make sure you deselect every now and then. If something's not working, it's usually because you need to deselect. You can also use your lasso tool to get rid of an area. Look at that. And then delete. And I think this is looking really good. So I am going to make sure I have no selection. And I've got my background image. I'm going to make that visible. And I've got my white. I'm going to make that visible. All right, so I've already gotten rid of the background of the portrait. Now this texture right here, I need to make it larger. So I come over here and I can make this larger so it fits inside of her body better. There we go. Okay. And right now I can't see underneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these 3 dots. And I'm going to change the transparency so that I can see through it a little bit. And now I can start to move my layer around as I see I need it. So that it looks really good for what I'm working on. I want there to be more green. There we go. Okay, kind of like how that's overlaying on top here. All right, this is the very final step. Well, the very final step would be to just jazz it up as much as you want. But what I'm going to do now is I am going to come back to the portrait image and I'm going to select the background of the portrait. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my magic wand. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I'm on my portrait image. I click on the background and it selects everything in the background. Now I don't want to delete that because there's nothing there right now anyway, but I do want to come back to this picture and I want to delete everything there. So all I do is come back to the background image, click delete. And there you go. So now I have, and I'm going to select, deselect. I have now this image inside of here, and I can start to adjust the opacity as I'd like. We can go all the way up if you wanted to. You could do it halfway, and you can also adjust opacity here. You can also change the background image of here to be any color you want. Let's just, for example, let's just choose that, and I do the paint drop, and I'm going to fill it in the background. This is where you can just start to jazz it up. You could add a filter back here, do anything you want to. I don't think that looks good at all. You'll see, I'm going to undo that, but I just wanted to show you the different options. I think this image actually looks not very good, but I think you understand the technical skills involved to do it. I don't think the green is very flattering at all for that picture that I showed you. If I did flowers or something like that, I think it would have looked a lot better. But anyway, that's how you do it. All you have to do when you're done is to file, save it as a JPEG, and turn it in.